This is a 4-row repeat worked on a multiple of 2. For my sample here, I have a total of 16 stitches, but I'm only going to be working the pattern over 14 of the stitches. The 2 extra stitches are for my edge stitches, one on each side, just to make it easier to work this pattern. I also knit a row before I began working the stitch pattern, just to make it easier to work through the stitch below, which is what we're going to be doing in this pattern, working into the stitch below. For the first row, let me knit my edge stitch here. Our repeat is knit one into the stitch below. Here's my knit 1. Then to knit into the stitch below, you look at the next stitch on your left needle, and if you pull on your fabric just a little bit, you can see this hole here, right below the next stitch. And that hole is what you want to work into. So you just put your right needle in there and knit. Just like you normally would knit. Knit 1. And then here is our stitch below, or loop below. Go right in there and knit. And it might take a little practice to get the hang of working into the stitch below, but it's really not a hard thing to do. Excuse me. So that's your repeat for the row. You're just going to knit 1 and knit below. And now here's my edge stitch. For row 2, let me get my edge stitch out of the way. For row 2, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be knitting 2 stitches together. But what we're going to be knitting together, it's not the next 2 stitches like you would normally do for a knit 2 together. We're going to take the next stitch and we're going to knit it together with the strand that happens when you knit into the stitch below, which is what we did on the previous row. And it can be a little hard to pick up or find that loop. It's going to be kind of loose, and if you turn your work just a little bit, you can see this diagonal strand here. That's the strand that you want to pick up and knit with the next stitch. And this is how I do it. I just put my right needle into that strand and then into my stitch and knit them together. Knit 1, And now we're going to be knitting that loop again. Let me show you here. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but this strand, pick that up, knit it together with the next stitch on your left needle. Knit one. See that diagonal strand? That's what you want to pick up. Knit it together with the next stitch on your left needle. Now my next stitch is just a knit one. If you turn and look, you don't have that diagonal strand. So it's kind of obvious when you look. Or it is to me anyway. It might take a little practice to get the hang of this one, but you can do it if you just practice. Now if you don't like just picking this up and then working through the next stitch, you can pick it up and place it on your left needle. Now you see how the strand and the next stitch kind of form an X? If you go in through the hole at the bottom of the X, it might be a little easier for you to knit those two together. Knit one. I'm going to grab my strand here, put it on my left needle, go in through the bottom of my X, knit one, picking up that strand, knit one, and my edge stitch. Row 3, it's basically the same as the first row, we're just offsetting it by one stitch. This time we're going to begin by knitting into the stitch below. So next stitch on the left needle, here is the stitch below. You just put your right needle in there and knit. Knit one, knit into the stitch below, This is really easy. It does take a little bit of practice though, if you're not familiar with working into the stitch below. Okay, one more row and then we're done. And row 4 is the same as row 2, it's just offset by one stitch. So instead of starting with the knitting the two together, we're just going to knit one And then we're going to pick up our strand just like we did before and knit it together with the next stitch on the left needle. Knit one, pick up that strand right here, knit together with the next stitch on the left needle, and knit one. You just repeat those 4 rows for the pattern. And like I said, I added 2 extra stitches to my stitch count, 1 on each side. You could do more. It makes it a lot easier to work the rows where you start by knitting into the stitch below for the first stitch. And I also knit a row before I started working in the stitch pattern, just because it does make it easier to work into the stitch below if you already have a little bit of a foundation down there. So, but that's it.